Hello, Essential P666 here. I have decided to take upon myself the rather daunting task of reading the Inferno by Dante. If you are unfamiliar with Dante, then you could blame secondary schools here in the United States who only teach the American and English literature to kids in high school. The wealth of great literature is not just written in English originally. There is a quote by the author T.S. Eliot who said that Shakespeare and Dante divide the world in two. There is no third. Dante was a brilliant writer who wrote in the 13th century. This was a time when, of course, there weren't bound books going around like we have today, the pulp fictions out there, the pulp mass paperbacks that we see today was, of course, unheard of, and the only people who were reading these things were those who were members of the elite and even the crown. So Dante was commissioned to write this. Very few people would have seen it initially after it being written, but of course today it has become one of the greatest pieces of literature in the world, and that is no exaggeration. The Inferno is the first of 3 books that Dante wrote, the second being Purgatorio, and the last being Paradiso. I do not feel that I'm going to be venturing into what is called the entire Divine Commedia, the Divine Comedy, but I will be reading the Inferno over the next few days. I hope to bring to people who haven't heard it some sort of love for literature and for a classic piece of literature like this. So I will do my best to bring a little bit of culture to those who would like to sit back and listen, and for those who maybe are studying this in school and college, I hope to give you a little bit of help by reading it, and I can tell you, having a degree in education, that it is very helpful to hear someone else read these passages to you and read along while I'm reading them. It will help you immensely in your understanding of this piece of fine literature. Now, the particular Inferno that I'll be reading from is a translation by John Chiardi. I like this one a lot because at the beginning of each of the cantos, he tells you what's going to happen. These cantos are written on a very high level, just like Shakespeare, and aren't always easily accessible to those of us who are products of a public school system. So it's very helpful to have that at the beginning of each canto. So at the beginning of each canto, what I'll be reading is Chiardi's basic synopsis of what's going to happen in the next few pages so that we as readers don't get too lost. Well, that being said, my minor introduction here, let's start with, of course, Canto 1, and I will read the description, and then when I'm done with the description, I will tell you I'm reading the actual text. Canto 1, Dante's Inferno. The Dark Wood of Error. Midway in his allotted 80 years and 10, Dante comes to himself with a start and realizes that he has strayed from the true way into the dark wood of error, worldliness. As soon as he realizes his loss, Dante lifts his eyes and sees the first light of the sunrise. The sun is a symbol of the divine illumination, lighting the shoulders of a little hill, the Mount of Joy. It is Easter season, the time of resurrection, and the sun is in its equinoctial rebirth. This juxtaposition of joyous symbols fills Dante with hope, and he sets out at once to climb directly up the Mount of Joy. But almost immediately his way is blocked by the three beasts of worldliness: the leopard of malice and fraud, the lion of violence and ambition, and the she-wolf of incontinence. These beasts, and especially the she-wolf, drive him back despairingly into the darkness of error. But just as all seems lost, a figure appears to him. It is the shade of Virgil, Dante's symbol of human reason. Virgil explains that he has been sent to lead Dante from error. There can, however, be no direct ascent past the beasts. The man who would escape them must go to a longer and harder way. First, he must descend through hell, the recognition of sin. Then he must ascend through purgatory, the renunciation of sin. And only then he may reach the pinnacle of joy and come to the light of God. Virgil offers to guide Dante, but only as far as human reason can go. Another guide, Beatrice, symbol of divine love, must take over for the final ascent, for human reason is self-limited. Dante submits himself joyously to Virgil's guidance, and they move off. Text. Midway in our life's journey, I went astray from the straight road, and woke up to find myself alone in a dark wood. How shall I say? What wood that was I never saw so drear, so rank, so arduous a wilderness. Its very memory gives a shape to fear. Death could scare me more bitter than that place, but since it came to good, I will recount all that I found revealed there by God's grace. How I came to it, I cannot rightly say, so drugged and loose with sleep had I become when I first wandered there from the true way. But at the far end of the valley of evil, whose maze has set my very heart with fear, I found myself before a little hill, and lifted up my eyes. Its shoulders glowed already with the sweet rays of the planet, whose virtue leads men straight on every road. And the shining strengthened me against the fright whose agony had racked the lake of my heart through all the terrors of the piteous night. Just as a swimmer, who with his last breath flounders ashore from perilous seas, might turn to memorize the wide water of his death, so did I turn, my soul still fugitive from death's surviving image, to stare down that pass that none hath ever left alive. And there I lay to rest from my heart's race, till calm and breath returned to me, then rose and pushed up that dead slope at such a pace. Each footfall rose above the last, and lo, almost at the beginning of the rise, I faced a spotted leopard, all tremor and flow, and gaudy pelt, and it would not pass, but stood so blocking my every turn, that time and again I was on the verge of turning back to the wood. This fell at the first widening of the dawn, as the sun was climbing, Aries with those stars that rode with him to light the new creation. Thus the holy hour and the sweet season of commemoration did much to arm my fear of that bright murderous beast with their good omen. Yet not so much but when I shook with dread at sight of the great lion that broke upon me, raging with hunger, its enormous head held high as if to strike a mortal terror into the very air, and down his track a she-wolf drove upon me, a starved horror, raving and wasted beyond all belief. She seemed a rack for avarice, gaunt and craving. Oh, many the souls that she has brought to endless grief. She brought such heaviness upon my spirit. At sight of her savagery and desperation, I died from every hope of that high summit, and like a miser, eager in acquisition, but desperate in self-reproach, when fortune's wheel turns the hour of his loss, all tears in attrition, I wavered back, and still the beast pursued, forcing herself against me bit by bit, till I slid back into the sunless wood. And as I fell, to my soul's ruin, a presence gathered before me on the discolored air, the figure of one who seemed hoarse from long silence. At sight of him, in the friendless wastes, I cried, "Have pity on me, whatever thing you are, whether shade or living man." And it replied, "Not man, though man I once was, and my blood was Lombard. Both my parents Mantuan. I was born, though late, sub Julio, and bred in Rome under Augustus, in the noon of the false and lying gods. I was a poet, and sang of old Anchialus' noble son, who came to Rome at the burning of Troy. But you, why do you return to these distresses, instead of climbing the shining mount of joy, which is the seat and first cause of man's bliss? And are you, then, that Virgil, and that fountain of purest speech?" My voice grew tremendous. Joy, glory, and light of poets, now may that zeal and love apprenticeship that I poured out on your heroic verses serve me well. For you are my true master and first author, the sole maker from whom I draw the breath of the sweet style whose measure have brought me honor. See there, immortal sage, the beast I flee. For my whole salvation, I beg you, guard me from her, for she has struck a mortal tremor through me. And he replied, seeing my soul in tears, He must go by another way who would escape this wilderness, for that mad beast that fleers before you there suffers no man to pass. She tracks down all, kills all, and knows no glut, but, feeding, she grows hungrier than she was. She mates with any beast, and will mate with more before the greyhound comes to hunt her down. She will not feed on lands nor loot, but honor and love and wisdom will make straight his way. He will rise between Feltro and Feltro, and in him shall be the resurrection and the new day of the sad Italy for which Nisus died, and Turnus and Euryalus and the maid Camilla. He shall hunt her through every nations of sick pride, till she is driven back forever to hell, whence envy first released her on the world. Therefore, for your own good, I think it well, you follow me, and I will be your guide, and lead you forth through the eternal place, where you shall see the ancient spirits tried in endless pain, and hear the lamentations of each bemoans the second death of souls. Next you shall see upon a burning mountain souls in fire, and yet content in fire, knowing that whensoever it may be, that they yet will mount into the blessed choir, to which, if it is still your wish to climb, a worthier spirit shall be sent to guide you. With her shall I leave you, for the King of Time, who reigns on high, forbids me to come there, since living I rebelled against his law. He rules the waters, and the land, and the air, and there holds court, his city and his throne. Oh, blessed are they he chooses, and I to him. Poet, by thy God to you unknown, lead me this way, beyond this present ill, and worse to dread. Lead me to Peter's gate, and be my guide through the sad halls of hell. And he then follow, and he moved ahead in silence, and I followed where he led.